Hi guys, welcome back to our podcast. This is part two, and we left back on the idea of rebirth and how it stunted Montag's maturity and how if he's a good or a bad person is really the question. And this, at the end of the story, we can see him as a good person. I'm gonna give it to Dan.
All right, so I think you said it last time that you think Montag started off as a selfish person, but he turned into a good person by the end of the story. Is that right?
Say that one more time.
Do you think that Montag started off as a selfish person who turned into a good person by the end of the story?
Yeah, I think Montag was a selfish person, but he turns into a good person once he meets. Well, I feel like once he gets deprotagonized and his ego's kind of gone, he starts. He actually gets to realize some things about himself and how he has self realization where dude, half of the things that he was doing was just like Beatty and Mildred. He was just the same as all of them. At the end of the story, he's trying to be different than them. Because once he realized that, he realized how bad it was.
Right, I can see that. I think that you can also see a difference in how he thinks about other people by the end of the story. Beginning of the story, Montag doesn't really care about Mildred unless besides the overdose scene, he really doesn't pay attention to her until he really needs to. And then after that, she rats him out to the authorities. They burn his house down.
Yeah, and I'm also pretty sure at the end of the story, Montag does think about this, but I don't think he really hates her.
He thinks about her.
He has empathy for her. He understands what he put her through, right?
He thinks about the bomb being dropped on her, and he's just destroyed by that idea, which I don't think past Montag would have been, honestly.
I mean, yeah, okay, it's still a human life right there, and he probably did end up like convincing himself that he still loved her. Maybe not in the way that he was supposed to, but I mean, he still had that love. He grew that love everybody should have for every single human being, right?
Yeah, that this society seems to lack.
Yeah, exactly. They lack love.
They lack compassion for each other and caring.
Yeah, they don't care for each other that much, but because they're all selfish, right?
Mm.
And I think what we can see is there's two distinct like groups of people in society for Fahrenheit 451. We have the group of intellectuals with Granger, who all care for each other, who are all together, and like, they would just work in a harmony, right? But then you have Montage society. Everyone's too busy with focusing on like themselves and how they look to other people. They don't get to focus on actual other people. They don't get to care for each other and help each other heal. I mean, at the beginning of the story, they got rid of books because they weren't happy. But honestly, they weren't happy because of the fact that none of them tried caring for each other. If they ended up caring for each other, they probably would have been happy.
Yeah, I think also that I just forgot what I was gonna say.
I mean, I have another point. So I also think that, I mean, yeah, you're right. My point is that how Montag is a good person at the end of the story. I don't think you can argue with that much. I mean, I wish there was just like a sequel we can see maybe to see if it really panned out right. What does he become? Does he end up just hiding, going back to his roots, right? Or does he actually make a distinct change? Does he fully grow? So we only get a hint of him growing at the end, him going into a good person, right? We don't know though what really happened after the book.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that a sequel would have been able to show his progression even further. I don't think it would have been necessary, but I think it would have been a very welcome
I don't
thing.
think it would have been necessary too, because Ray Bradbury didn't make this book to like
Sell
showcase
copies.
off Montaug's life. He made this book as a warning to our society on the dangers of the idea of censorship, right?
Mm.
And the dangers of the idea, right? He didn't make it for that. So yeah, you're right. There'd be no point. I mean, because that's not the whole point of the book. The whole point of the book is just the idea of censorship and its dangers, right?
Mm.
So that makes sense. I also think that as the story progressed, we had Montag just. Actually, I want to look at this in the point of view of Beatty, right? Beatty believed that books were evil. I mean, he hated them. And he just believed he was right because he trusted himself so much. I mean, it's kind of crazy too because no one in society trusted themselves. Mildred didn't trust herself. No one trusted themselves. But Beatty, for some reason, trusted himself. But I also think that he was convincing himself that he trusted himself. Convincing himself that this idea that he based his whole life upon was right. Because if it was wrong, it would disprove everything he's ever lived for, right?
It would destroy him.
He had too much to lose. And he'd rather live in the pain than be proven wrong and change, right? Montag has also everything to lose, his job and everything. But he still makes a change. That's the difference between Beatty and Montag. Beatty's a bad person overall. Montag's also a bad person. But Montag makes a change, making him a good person.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that Beatty overall is a terrible person to want to. You don't want to emulate what Beatty does.
Yeah,
You don't want to be Montag either. But Montag does make an effort to change. He does take that leap forward. He does step out of his comfort zone, and he wants to be proven wrong.
Yeah, but I sympathize for no, I don't think Montag wants to be proven wrong. He's a really big ego in the story. He doesn't want to be proven wrong. I mean, when Beatty tells Montag about how all the firefighters have had the same dream as him, he does feel upset that he's been proven wrong, right? And disappointed. But I think that I have some sympathy. I want to sympathize for Beatty because he grew up his whole life. I mean, that has to be hard, just having someone just come up to you out of their jurisdiction, just trying to convince you and disprove everything you ever worked for, right?
Yeah.
It's like maybe someone coming up to you, right, and like disproving your whole culture. It's very wrong in Beatty's eyes. It's just not a good idea.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, that it kind of uproots, if he did give into this idea that maybe the books do have something, maybe they aren't evil, it would kind of uproot his whole idea of society, and it would make him just question everything. And he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to move forward with his life. He just wants to stay in his little shell and never evolve as a person and just go about day to day, in and out, same thing every day.
Yeah, I also think that the question that Montag is a good person or a bad person, and overall, because I've only been talking about the end of him being a good person, beginning of him being a bad person. Overall, I think that Montag was good, deep down, but just had to go through lots of, he had to go through places he wasn't comfortable in for him to to sculpt him, sculpt that evil away from him into the pure and goodness of his heart, right?
Right. It's like a layer of evil around him that he breaks away slowly throughout the story.
And every loss in the story, it takes off a little piece of that evil.
Yeah.
I think the biggest piece of loss is, the atomic bomb at the end. That's what really put the foot forward for change.
That's what finally made that crack just completely expand and break away.
Yeah, I also think that Montag is a good person, I'll say it, but everyone else in society, I also want to bring up another question. Everyone else in that society, I feel like Montag at the beginning of the story is the same as everyone else. So what's what I'm saying, that if for some reason what if Beatty went through all these things, like Clarice and everything, that Montag went through, would he be the same person Montag is? So I think that everybody in society had these opportunities that Montag had to change. Montag is lucky to have these opportunities. Would they be the same? Would they also turn to this amazing person? Is everybody in Montag society deep down a good person, or are they all evil and Montag is the only person that's good?
I remember hearing from someone that they thought, what if Mildred met Clarice? Would she have been able to pull herself out of this idea of society that she has? Would she have been able to question herself? And that made me think a lot about it. I think that most people in this society might have thought about it, but I think that there are some that are just too far gone, like Mildred. Mildred was way too far gone to ever evolve until the very end when the nuke has been dropped.
Yeah, I think that's going to conclude our podcast for today, guys. I hope you guys have